Russ, did my team do enough? Everybody's saying, did they do enough? Could have got a left-hander. I put a pin. Needed another starter. They got Flaherty. I wanted Cease. Who doesn't want him? Did they do enough?
Adam, I think you and I both know the answer to that question, and it's no. And it's one of those things where you're almost disappointed because you look at the Baltimore Orioles and you say, all right, this is the best team in the American League going into yesterday's trade deadline, and you're like, all right, if they do something major and they have the prospect capital to do it, they can really set themselves apart in this push for the postseason because I just getting to the postseason shouldn't be the bar, right? It should be like, how can we make the deepest run possible to get to the post, or once we're in the postseason? And so for the Orioles, there was a lot of starting pitching out there for them to acquire. And I know Dylan Cease was the guy that a lot of people wanted. At the same time, there were guys not named Dylan Cease that could have helped them where you don't have to give up, obviously you're not trying to trade Jackson Holiday, right? I understand that. And if you don't want to trade G-Rod, understand that too. But when you build up so much prospect capital because you're bad for a long time, you have the room to maneuver around and package players while still keeping your best prospects to make your team better. And I think something I wanted to ask you guys, if you were in a position where you're the best team in the American League and you've worked so hard to get to this point and you don't see reinforcements come in the door the day after the deadline, how would you guys feel?
Both. I'm riding with my dudes, but at the same time, it's like the number one goal is to win it that year, not to win it the next year. No, the projection, that's for projection people in that clubhouse. We want to win it now. And, when you see a couple guys, unfortunately, my career, I didn't get that experience where at the trade deadline, seeing a big dog walk in, you know what I mean? Like Parker coming in, major too.
Major league.
I didn't get one of those. I wish I did. Other guys have, which is great. You guys were part of trades that you guys were the focal point at a big time. So you want to see it, but you still want to ride with your guys, but you want to see them go all in because this is your window. You're still good next year too. You're still young. You're not trading Adley. You're not trading Gunner. You can give up. You can trade a lot of guys. And they have capital, unfortunately.
AJ, would you have talked shit if you were in that position and you're on that team and players went up to you like, yo, man, don't you feel like we should have gotten more? Would you have been
Me?
like, yeah?
Would I ever talk shit, Scott?
That's why I asked the question to
you. Listen, we used to go up. I mean, we had a little different relationship when I was in Chicago, but we used to go up to the damn GM after the trade deadline and be like, man, what happened? We forget about it? Stuff like that. So, I mean, now we had a different relationship with Kenny Williams. I had more of an open relationship where we could kind of say whatever to him. Most people aren't that fortunate. So, yeah, I mean, we were definitely in the clubhouse. You said things. I mean, if you were in it and you were like, why didn't we go do things? Teams question that as players because, like Adam said, you want to win. So, yeah, you question, man, we could have done more. Now, listen, the Orioles got Flaherty. He's a serviceable starter. He hasn't been great this year. His numbers have been better since the start. But, yeah, I mean, if I'm a player on the Orioles, I'm thinking, if I'm Adley Rutschman, if I'm Gunnar Henderson, if I'm Santander, I'm these guys, I'm like, damn, we got a shot here because, again, the AL for me is down. Let's make a move. And, look, Texas did it. Houston did it. Those are the teams that listen, we're trying to win right now. 2023 is our year, our chance to get to the World Series and win. Let's go, boys.
Yeah, for me, I mean, when I was with the Mets, he was at the tail end of his career. But Bautista, when he came in from Toronto, I thought that was, one of the cooler things to see, a big guy like that walking in. And I've never met him before, and that's the weirdest thing. And I've never been that close to him. But when you see him, I think of, Bautista. I'm looking like he's not that tall of a guy either, but he's big in stature with the way he hits the ball and stuff like that. But I've been on both ends of the stick. I've been the third guy that gets traded most likely. So the other team didn't get the two other pitchers, Canely and Robertson. I know I wasn't the main piece on that. So I'm walking in behind both of them in the locker room and see CC Sabathia. What's up, big dog? Good to see you. And I went to my locker. So it's like, you know who you are in that aspect, and you got to be real with yourself for sure.
And I think a big part for this, these teams that are young and they're just getting to this point, it's falling in love with your farm system, right? Because you're bad for so long and you're trying to build up this system and you don't want to just be bad for no reason. Like you're trying to acquire players in the draft international free agency that helps build you up to be a playoff team again. But when you're at a point when you're trying to contend, no, you don't want to give up everything you built. But you have to say at some point, all right, we're going for it now. And it can't just be about 2024, 2025, 2026, because as you guys know, as I know, Scott, as you know, none of this is guaranteed, right? Like you could have the number one farm system on paper and maybe one of those guys pans out, or maybe none of those guys pan out, or maybe a handful do. And then the others are, they kind of fizzle out. Maybe they never make it to the big leagues. So to look at it in totality and say, well, we can't really mortgage the future, understood. But at the same time, you have to know that half of these guys or more than half of these guys will never be what we think